Happy 4th of July. I know it's not 4th of July yet, but I feel like I won't see you until after 4th of July, so happy 4th of July. This month we're focusing on independence, freedom, liberation, and what that might mean to you and to us as a community and to us as one human family. Freedom, independence, liberation. And I was struck this week with some reminders. There's a lot of turmoil going on in our country at the moment regarding freedom and liberation. And some of our values are being tested. Some of our ideas about freedom and all-inclusivity are being questioned with some of the choices that are being made today in our country. So, happy 4th of July. Happy birthday to anyone that has a July birthday. Is anyone here that does have a July birthday? Dr. Pam. Yay. Susan. So happy birthday to you and happy birthday to all of your friends and family that were born in the month of July. Thank you, Kelly, for working on the sound. So freedom. What is true freedom? And I just ask you to think about that for yourself. What does freedom mean to you? What does freedom mean to you? Do you feel free? Do you feel free? Or do you feel restricted in some way? Do you feel imprisoned in some way by something that's happening in your life? Or do you fully feel free and empowered to create a life that you love living? Because that's really what we're all about here at the Satya Center, is focusing on how we create, how we co-create using our God-given powers of our mind and of our heart, of our intentions, our values, and our purpose. We emphasize this a lot as we talk about how to live a full and rich and meaningful life, a life of freedom. So I found some quotes on freedom. The first one is from Byron Katie, and it says, "Nothing you believe is true. To know this is freedom." So nothing you believe is true. To know this is freedom. What does she mean by that? Our thoughts and beliefs come and go, don't they? Can we trust anything that we hear ourselves saying in the quiet of our mind? Sometimes, but not all the time. Most of the things that we think we can challenge. We can ask, is that true? So we can look at that today a little bit. I also found a quote from Ernest Holmes. "The divine plan is one of freedom. The inherent nature of man, woman, is ever seeking to express itself in terms of freedom, because freedom is the birthright of every living soul." Freedom is the birthright of every living soul. So I was doing some more searching and I came across a wonderful book that I have referenced in the past. And this is a book by the author Viktor Frankl. Has anyone heard of Dr. Viktor Frankl? He wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And he gave birth to a new form of psychotherapy called logotherapy, which aims to assist clients to uncover meaning and purpose in their lives. But the thing that stands out most for me about him is that he was in 4 different prison camps during World War II. And that he has created this wonderful book. It used to be called Say Yes to Life. And then when it was translated into English, it was given the title A Man's Search for Meaning. So as I was researching Viktor Frankl and his life and what he could possibly say about freedom, being one that had been imprisoned for and experienced such great loss and tragedy, losing his wife and 3 other family members, but himself coming out and being released after many years in the concentration camps. The thing that stands out most for me about his story is when he describes how he's seen people walking in the midst of their huts on the camps, in these camps, that they had choices. Some giving away their last piece of bread to comfort others. Everything can be taken from a person except the last of freedoms, the freedom to choose our response in any given set of circumstances. And that freedom links with responsibility and leads to a profound sense of being able to make meaning out of whatever life presents a person. So, just hearing that we all have this freedom to make meaning out of what we're given, to create a more expansive life, given the opportunities that we're faced. That each of us have the choice to have a certain attitude. We each have a choice to choose the thoughts that we think, to develop the life that we want. So, given that kind of imprisonment, where all of your freedoms, your physical freedoms are pretty much taken away, you still have that power to choose to respond to circumstances in a certain way. So maybe you think about your life right now, and maybe there's something that you feel trapped by. It could be financial, it could be health, it could be a relationship. And you're feeling imprisoned by your thoughts about this situation. But really, we have the ability to respond to whatever is happening to us in our lives in the way that we want to. We don't have to be victims of circumstances. We can still choose to be who we want to be, have the attitude that we want to have, to present ourselves in a way that truly reflects our soul. And maybe you've had this experience. You've had an experience of crisis or struggle or challenge when there's something that rises up inside of you that makes you stronger than you thought you were. Or maybe you're one that takes more leadership when there's a crisis going on. Do you know what I'm talking about? So we have that within us every moment of the day to choose our response to how life is, to choose to be the person we want to be. So one of the things that's very important in what he's talking about is the word responsibility. We have personally a sense of responsibility in creating our own lives, and also responsibility for our role, the role we play in the lives of others. Right? So this spiritual path at the Satya Center, or in general, New Thought, or whatever path you might be on, is one of taking personal responsibility. Come on in. Welcome. So we're all responsible for the experience we're having. This is very different than some other paths. Here we're said, we shine the light on ourselves, and we take responsibility for the experience we have. We're not pointing fingers and blaming it on someone else. We're taking self-responsibility for the experience we have. So on my journey, what I have found particularly helpful for me is to the work of Byron Katie. Byron Katie is an author, she's a teacher and speaker, and she's someone that suffered a great deal of personal depression, anger, rage, health issues, And one morning she woke up with this sense of liberation and freedom. Liberation and freedom from what? Her thoughts. She seemed to not have a personal attachment to the way things happened or the people needing to be a certain way. She woke up completely free of judgments and opinions about other people. And so as this happened, she went from a very angry, overweight, bitter, rageful woman to someone that people started to seek out because she had a great sense of wisdom about how to live life amid struggle and stress. So she developed these 4 questions. And so I share these with you today. Is it true? Can I absolutely be sure that it's true? How do I feel when I believe that thought? And who would I be without that thought? So, these are 4 questions that I want to explore with you a little bit as it might relate to your own sense of struggle. Maybe there's something going on in your life at the moment that you're feeling is sort of your reason for not living a happy, meaningful, fulfilled life. Maybe there's something that you're placing a meaning or a reason on. You know, if only such and such would happen, then I'd be happy. If only I had more money, then I'd be happy. If so-and-so would stop doing such and such, then I'd be happy. You know, we place our good outside. We give other people responsibility. As soon as you start behaving that way, then I can be happy. In essence, we're holding them captive. We're imprisoning other people and making them responsible for our happiness. So these questions help us to take back our power and to create a sense of freedom, because we see that our thoughts are what we choose. Our thoughts are ours. And it doesn't have to be the other way around. So, what is causing you to stay stuck in a pattern of struggle or unhappiness? And think about that as I share some of these ideas. Do you like your life? If you're not happy in life, if you haven't found meaning, and if you don't have purpose, it's not because of life, is it? Because life is very rich and abundant and plentiful. So it's not because of life. It's because of our thoughts about life. Our thoughts about the way we think things should be and the way things shouldn't be. So in this teaching, it's about differentiating between what life is, what reality is, and then what our thoughts about reality are. Because typically it's our thoughts about the way things are that cause us struggle and strife. So one of our main core teachings here at the Satya Center is to change your thinking and change your life. This is the core premise of this philosophy, this faith, and this way of life. To take personal responsibility for the way you think about things. Now this can be extremely challenging to our ego mind that wants to be right, that wants to point the finger and wants to say it's because of that. It's because of him, it's because of her, it's because of this damn job that I have, it's because I don't have enough money. And we make other things responsible. So we take back the responsibility and we choose to think more empowering thoughts about our lives. Because energy flows where our attention goes. So if we're primarily focused on what's wrong, what's missing, and how we're miserable, then that's the experience that life seems to mirror back to us. It's a bit of a paradox. We have to do the changing first before the outside world takes form and matches and mirrors back to us what we want. So when we get stuck in these habits of thinking about things in a certain way, then where's the change? The change won't occur out there. It might, but really the change has to happen in here. So I share some quotes from Byron Katie. Placing the blame or judgment on someone else. Placing blame or judgment on someone else leaves you powerless to change your experience. Taking responsibility for your beliefs and judgments gives you the power to change them. So we get to stop blaming other people. Because as long as we have that inner dialogue, that monologue going on about it's something else, it's someone else, we just keep that pattern going. We stay in it, that becomes our life. One of my teachers said, you cannot have what you are not in consciousness. So we have to change our consciousness from being a victim of something or someone to taking responsibility for how we're going to direct our thoughts and feelings about that thing. So can you create a more friendly environment for yourself to live in? Can you refrain from blaming other people? It's just a habit. It's just a habit. And then society seems to enforce that and encourage that through the media, blaming other people for this or that. If it's only that, it's them, it's this, it's that. We're not really encouraged to not blame. It becomes a part of our culture. So, who would you be without that thought? That it was that other person that did this or that. So that's the question, one of the questions. Who would I be without that thought? Who would I be without the thought that my happiness depends on my income? Wow, I could be happy without any money. But as long as I'm focused on I need money to be happy, then that's going to be my experience. Do you hear me? Or am I the only one that has this particular thing going on? No? Okay. As long as you think that the cause of your problem is out there, as long as you think that anyone or anything is responsible for your suffering, the situation is hopeless. It means that you are forever in the role of victim, that you're suffering in paradise. Ouch. That's from Katie, that we're suffering in paradise because reality is paradise. Really, we live in a free world. We're free to be whoever we want to be. We're free to think whatever we want to think. We live in paradise. But we have our mind, our little ego mind has us so focused on particular things that we feel trapped sometimes. Not all the time. You've been coming here for some time now. You've probably picked up a lot of wisdom along your life's path. Hopefully we've shared some insights with you here at the Satya Center. So not always, but there could be that one little area of your life that seems to have you fixated. So what could you do to bring some expanded perspective in that particular area? That particular area. Could you change your thoughts about that particular area of your life? Actually, that's my homework for you this week, is to change the quality of your thoughts around that particular thing. Maybe a relationship, it may be a health issue, finances, situation. Could you just notice this week when you go to that familiar victim story that goes on in your head? The rest of us may not even know you're up to this. Can you change your inner monologue around it and experiment with being positive, with being more relaxed, being less rigid, judgmental, critical about that thing? And it could be yourself. So many of us have that harsh judgment we have on ourselves. Could you loosen up? Could you lighten up? You are a precious child of this universe. You are the presence of love made manifest on this planet. That's what the rest of us are waiting to experience through you. Your love, your generosity of spirit. And when you're so fixated on that thing, we don't get that from you. That's not you. That's just your mind. And you know that you're more than just your mind, don't you? You're that which has a mind. You're a spiritual being having this human experience. And part of this human experience is that you get a body, an earth suit, and you get a mind. You get this brain that helps navigate through this dimension. I almost said through this dilemma. Through this. So we're that which has a mind and we're that which has a body. But what I know is our body and our mind responds to that spirit within us. That deep well of love and light. That's who you really are. So again, when you find yourself closing down, when you find yourself restricting, when you find yourself becoming a victim of your own thoughts, as you find yourself blaming, criticizing, judging, just take a breath and loosen up and ask yourself, is it true that I need more money to be happy? Is it true that if so-and-so would quit doing that, then I'd be happy? Who would I be without that thought? I feel good. I feel like I was more me. The me I know that I am most of the time when I'm not listening to that voice. And then there's the turnaround. This is another part of Katie's teaching. You turn it around. You ponder for a moment. You do this inquiry, this deep work into turning it around. I don't need money to be happy. That's my turnaround. Wow, then it opens things up. Then it puts the responsibility right where it needs to be. Me? I get to make more inspiring choices about how I spend my time. I get to choose to think more empowering thoughts about my life and my happiness. And then, as I loosen up, then ideas come. Inspiration comes. And maybe I find myself doing something I enjoy doing that doesn't involve money. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I call these Katie-isms, these quotes that I'm sharing with you. Bad. How can you see the good in it? How can you see the good that comes out of it, maybe years later? If you see anyone as bad, how can you understand that we are all created equal? We're all teachers by the way we live. A blind drunk can teach more about why not to drink than an abstinent man in all his piety. No one has more or less goodness. No one who ever lived is better or a worse human being than you are. So we have this tendency to label things good and bad. That's just a habit. It's just a habit. You don't need to label things good and bad. Now, mainstream life, media encourages this. We go to school, we're taught good and bad. We're taught to be, that the good student gets a gold star and the bad student gets a big X. It's ingrained in who we are to be the judges of good and bad. So who would you be without that structure going on in your mind? Who would you be without the desire to label things good and bad? What if you were just with what is? Knowing that some people behave in certain ways, other people behave in ways that are more life-inspiring. Some people behave in ways that tend to diminish life, but you didn't have this need to judge it or label it. It just is what it is, and you learn, and you decide, you choose, you take responsibility for the way you're going to act, and maybe you learn that the sober path is a more delightful path than the path of a drinker. You know, we learn through life as we go. But labeling things, we're not then opening up to the wonderful lessons that we receive from that contrast, because we live in a world of contrasts. The most ancient of teachings, spiritual teachings, have taught us this. The yin and the yang, the light and the dark. There's opposites, there's up and down. So we just are more settled with what's going on, without putting ourselves in the superior place of being the judge. Who would you be without being the judge? So stop looking for problems, because what you look for, you will find. Stop looking for problems and start trusting yourself. Katie says, anything you want to ask a teacher, ask yourself and wait for the answer in silence. It's another habit we have. We like to go outside to get permission. We like to go outside to hear what we think other people want us to do. We go outside of ourselves to find answers. Well, the answers are within, said the Master Teacher. The kingdom of heaven, the queendom of heaven is within. So we learn to ask ourselves the questions we seek answers to. So think of one right now for yourself in the quiet of your own mind. Do you have a question that you think, if some great, wonderful, inspired, awakened teacher would show up, you would like to ask him or her? Ask yourself that question. Spend time with yourself, plumbing the depths of your own innate godness, the wisdom that you have within yourself. What would that question be? Ask yourself that now. How can I find peace? Listen. When will love come into my life? Listen. Maybe the teacher you've been looking for has been there all along. It's right there within you. So start trusting yourself. Start trusting yourself. Another thing is, this is a bit of a paradox, is the teacher you need is the person that you're living with. The teacher you need is the person that you're living with. So it could be that annoying husband of yours. Or those kids. Or yourself. Quite often we've got advice for others, don't we? We may not always say it out loud, but if only they... So we take that advice. In the work, we turn it around. They should be minding their own business. I should be minding my own business. All of a sudden, the world seems a friendlier place when we go from giving others advice to giving ourselves the same advice. Try that one too this week. When you feel the desire, when your ego feels the desire to give some advice to someone else, before you do, just turn it around and just see if there isn't liberation, if there isn't a sense of freedom that comes from taking your own advice. So my message to you today is really, stay focused in yourself. Be your own source of wisdom. Mind your own business. Take your own advice. And quit feeling like a victim, because life has given you everything. God has given you everything. The kingdom, the queendom of heaven is at hand. Open your eyes to see the miracle that life is, and the miracle of life will insert itself into your life. It's called grace. You will open up yourself to be available to the grace that is always, always at hand. So let's go within and pray. So I offer this prayer as an activation of these teachings as a path of freedom. So I start with the obvious, that right here where we are, God is. The one omniscience, omnipresent, omnipotent Spirit. It's all that we see, all that we feel, all that we are. We are it. It is who and what we are. And as we relax into our true identity of being one with the One, as we relax into this remembering that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, as we embrace our individuality, that each one of us, a beautiful incarnation of spirit, uniquely packaged in this body. Each one of us has the co-created powers to use our invisible energies, our love, our compassion, our wisdom, our beauty, our creativity. We awaken even now. We awaken to what is ours to be and to do on this planet. We awaken to our true identity and know there's nothing more to do and to be other than be who we really are. And be that generously, giving of this divine love that we possess within us, giving of our creativity in ways to uplift and inspire humanity. Because as we shift our awareness from our little self, our individual self, and we move into oneness, we move into we. How can we be a beneficial presence on this planet? And then this community is expanded by your awareness. And we become that community, that light that we are. And we share all that we are with who we're becoming. And like pebbles in a pond, we become a ripple. We become a prayer, a living prayer. And everyone in our life is blessed by our freedom, by our responsibility to choose and be who we want to be. Our ability to respond to life in a graceful, giving, caring, loving way. And in this way, like ripples on the pond, who we are ripples out, uplifting, inspiring, So I know that even now, as these truths are revealing themselves even more clearly in our minds and in our hearts, our path is made clear. Anything that has hindered us in the past, any doubts, any uncertainties, any fears, any sadness, any anger is simply dissolving in the light of truth and love. And we allow God's grace to be our all-sufficiency. We know that it is within us, and it's our role to share it generously. And it flows and it goes and it flows and it goes, and we become the walking prayer that we are. And for this I give thanks. I give thanks for each of you in this room. May you be blessed. May your light shine brightly. And may all beings on this planet awaken to the truth of who they are. May all beings on this planet be freed and released from any suffering. And may we all remember that we are one. One life, one power, one love. So with a grateful heart, I release this prayer. I release it knowing that it's already so. I let go. Take in a breath and let go. And please join me in saying, so it is. All right. Do you feel free to be? Free to be who you want to be? All right, I invite the ushers to come forward. This is our time of giving our gifts. And as Dr. Pam so eloquently stated, we are really creating a beautiful community here together. A community of loving souls that have so much to offer this community. And so it is our vision here at the Satya Center that we come together to create this vision and to extend our loving kindness out into the community. So take your gift today, take it in your hand, and know you are communing with life right now as you're saying, yes, life is my source. God is my sufficiency. So please join me in saying, joyfully, I give with gratitude, for I know that as I give, I am given. I am